What's going on, guys? John Elder here from Codemy.com, and in this video, I want to talk about version control with Git and GitHub. All right, in the last video, we talked about data types, went over all the different data types, the main ones at least. In this video, I want to talk about version control using Git and GitHub with Python. But before we get started, if you like this video and want to see more like it, be sure to smash the like button below, subscribe to the channel, and be sure to check out Codemy.com, where I have dozens of courses with hundreds of videos to teach you to code. Use coupon code YouTube to get $22 off membership. That's all my courses, videos, and books for a one-time fee of just $27, which is insanely cheap. So, okay, you're a programmer, you're writing code. What happens if something goes wrong? Well, you think, oh, I'll just go back a few steps and start over. But it's not usually that easy. In fact, the more complicated your coding gets, the easier it is for you to get turned around, messed up, screw up. I can't tell you how many times I've been working on something and I completely ruined it. I started writing some code, I ran it, it didn't work. I went back and looked at it, I couldn't figure out what I had just done because I wasn't paying attention or something, and the whole thing's just ruined. You have to start over. Well, luckily we have something called version control. And basically version control, it just keeps copies of your code as you go along, different versions of your code. And you just save your code from time to time. And then if you have a problem, you can scale it back or scroll it back or roll it back, whatever you want to call it, to a time when it did work. So that's sort of the main purpose of version control. The other purpose is if you're working on a team with a bunch of people, you can all check out the code, add bits and pieces to it. Version control will keep track of who made what changes and when. And then it also helps to sort of merge all those changes together into the final whatever. So there's just a ton of things you can do with version control. This is not really a Python thing. It's more of just a coding thing, but it's, industry standard. Everybody that codes professionally always uses version control. There's a lot of different types of version control out there, but Git is probably the one you've heard of. It's by far the most popular one and totally free. And we're going to set it up and start using it in this video. So there's a separate thing. There's Git and then there's GitHub, and they're two very different things. GitHub is sort of like a social network. It is a website that will host your Git files, your Git code, right? Your Git repositories, they're called. And you can also sort of interact with other coders. You can see other people's code. You can download their code if it's, public and stuff like that. Now, Git used to be independent. I think Microsoft just bought GitHub a while back. So, big changes, but GitHub is still sort of the industry standard place to host your code. Not only that is, it's a good thing for if you're looking for a job. A lot of times potential employers will go look at your GitHub account. They can look at your code that's public. They can see, what kind of stuff you've worked on. They can see your actual code. They can look through it and say, okay, this person has the skill set we're looking for based on, their GitHub account. It's just very useful, and everybody uses it. So that's what we're going to talk about. Now, if you're on a Mac or a Linux, Git may already be installed. If you're on Windows, it's a little bit more tricky, but luckily we downloaded and installed this terminal. Remember, this is a Git bash terminal. So it already has Git installed, ready to go. You just have to do a couple of things to sort of turn it on and start using it. That's what we're going to talk about in this video. We also need to connect this to GitHub, which I said GitHub.com is sort of a social network. It's a place to host your GitHub, your Git repositories, your source code. And so it's very cool. Check out, let me pull it up here, github.com/flatplanet. This is mine. Again, I don't think the world is flat. I just think it's hilarious that some people do. So that's my username. And you can check out some of my code. All of the code for all of these videos will soon be up here. You'll be able to look at them. In this video, we're going to push the code up there. I'm going to show you how to do it, and that's going to be cool. So I'm logged in, so you can't see a little button underneath here, but there's usually a follow button. If you want to click that and follow me, that's cool. Don't have to, but whatever. So there's a couple of things we need to do. And the first thing is sort of set up an SSH key. An SSH key is an encryption key, and it allows us to connect to GitHub through the terminal sort of securely, right? It allows GitHub to identify us as the person that we are, right? So this Git bash has the tools that you need to set up an SSH key, and that's what we're going to do now. So I've opened up a brand new terminal, And this is just the default directory that it opens up into, whatever yours is. Mine is called Flat Planet because that's what my computer's called. If you hit pwd, this shows you the directory. You can see I'm in C users Flat Planet. This is just the default directory that opens. So that's what we're going to be working at. So the first thing we want to do is we need to create a directory that will house our SSH key. And the convention is to create a hidden directory so other people can't really see it. And a hidden directory is denoted with a period in front of it. So we want to create a directory called SSH. So we just put a period in front of it. So in order to make a directory, we just type in mkdir and then .ssh. And it worked. So now we can move into that directory by using the cd command, change directory. I'm just going to type .ssh. So if we hit pwd, we can see we are in fact in that directory. See right here. And if we hit ls to list the stuff that's in this directory, there's nothing in there right now. So what we need to do now is generate our SSH key. And luckily GitHub or Git Bash terminal has a key generator. You used to have to download like this thing called Putty and do a whole thing. It was just a mess on Windows. But like I said, this Git terminal already has the key generator, so we can just use it. So you type ssh-keygen, all one word, .exe, right? Now it's saying, where do you want to put this thing? And you can see it's suggesting the SSH directory that we're already in. So we could just hit enter. Now it's asking for a password. Sometimes I put a password in, sometimes I don't. You're only going to do this once, so maybe don't put a password. But if you do, and I'm going to right now, I just type it in. And now you notice nothing showed up on the screen. That's normal. That's a security feature. But rest assured, I did type in a password. Now you want to do it again. Make sure they match. And that's pretty much it. You can see it's done this little thing and it's generated some stuff. Now we can hit ls again to list the stuff in this directory. And we can see now there are these two files. And that's very cool. One of them is the SSH key that's public. id_rsa.pub. This is the one we're going to be using to connect to GitHub. And this is the private one. This one stays here on this computer. You don't want to ever show anybody this key. So we can actually now see what our key is. And let's clear the screen here. And we can do that by issuing the cat command. That stands for catalog. It basically just shows the contents of a file. So it's actually first, let's go pwd just to see. This is the directory that we're in. Okay, that's good. So now let's go to cat and then /c users / and I'm just copying the directory that we're in, .ssh, and then we want to open that id_rsa.pub. Make sure you type the .pub. We want the public one, right? And boom, this is our SSH key. Very cool. So now you can see I've highlighted it all. Now I want to right click and click copy. So we need to take this and then enter it into GitHub in our GitHub account. Now if you don't have a GitHub account, go ahead and set one up. They're completely free. Go ahead and do that now. Then log into your account and then come up here to, I think it's the little picture up here. And we want settings. And then down here we want this SSH and GPG keys. And what we're doing here is we're just going to add our key that we just generated. So click this new SSH key button, and you don't have to put a title. Just click on here, right click, and click paste to paste this whole thing in that we just generated, and then click the button. Now it may ask you to enter your password again. It may send you an email saying, did you put this key in there? Is everything okay? But you should be fine. So now we can go back to our profile, or let's see, just go back to, our main page here. And what we need to do now is start using this thing. We need to connect. Well, first we need to set up Git, which is the actual version control. And then we need to connect our Git in our terminal to our GitHub account. So let's start by initializing Git. So first things first, come back to our terminal here. And I'm just going to clear the screen. Now we want to change directory into the directory where we've been saving all of our Python files, right? So that was C, think it was Python stuff. So let's list this to make sure, right, hello py. Remember in the last video, that's the file we created with all of our data type stuff. So we're in the correct directory, and you need to do this in the directory that you're going to be saving your files, because it's going to push everything in this directory up to GitHub. So be sure that you're in the correct directory. So now we need to turn on Git and start using it. And this is actually, it's not complicated, but there's several steps. So what I've done is I've written it down on my website so you can just copy and paste. And I've never memorized these steps because why would you? But I've used them 1,000 times. You'd think I would memorize them by now, but I don't. So go to my website, johnelder.com and /code. And this is just a little website I have with snippets of code that I like to save that I need to memorize or that I don't want to memorize. I just put them up on this page so that I can, reference this from time to time. And then come down here and click on Git. And then the very first thing here, initializing Git. These are the steps we need to go through in order to set up and start using Git on our computer. So we just need to copy and paste each of these into the terminal. So here's the first one. I'm going to right click and click copy, or you can hit Control-C on your keyboard, Command-C on a Mac. And let's go back to our terminal here. I'm going to right click and paste. So it's git config -- global user.name, and then just type in your name. And the reason why it wants your name is because remember earlier I said with Git, if you're collaborating with a team, it keeps track of who does what and when. And obviously it needs to know your name in order to keep track of who you are and what you've done. So hit that. Okay, hit enter. Next, let's pull up the next one. Git config global user email. And same deal. Right click, paste, put in your email, johnny4196@gmail.com. Hit enter. Almost done. We got a few more steps here. The rest of these we can just straight up copy and paste them. So copy and paste. Git config -- global push.default matching. And it's been so long since I put this together, I don't even remember what these things do. Doesn't matter. This is just what you do in order to initialize and set up Git. So I'm going to copy this one. Got one more after this. And then the last one is git init. And this is the command to initialize Git. We're turning it on, basically. And it says it's initialized an empty Git repository in our C Python stuff folder, and it's put it in this .git directory. And this is a hidden directory. In fact, if we type in ls, it doesn't even show up here as being listed because it's hidden because it has a period in front of it. So that's cool. Now, also you'll notice now our terminal has this master thing. If you look all up in here, there is no master on any of these other ones. But down here, since we initialized Git, there is now a master. This tells you that Git is on, it's running, it's doing its stuff. And what it's done here is it's created a master branch. So when you're saving code, you're saving like on a branch of code. And the cool thing about it is it's like a tree and it has different branches that go off of it. So you can take your code, and if you want to do like maybe something radical with your code and you're not sure it's going to work, you can create a different branch of your code and then you can start working on it. If it doesn't work, you can go back to your master branch and start all over again. So very cool. There's just a lot of stuff you can do with Git. I'm not going to get into any of that stuff in any of these videos. We're just going to use this to save our code and push it up to GitHub, and I'll show you how to do that. So okay, so now we're most of the way there. We still have a few more things to do. First, we need to, anytime we want to save our code, we go git add period. And what this is doing is adding, the period stands for everything. We're saying add everything in this directory to our Git repository. Boom, there we go. Now we go git commit -am and then quotation marks. And inside of the quotation marks, we're going to write a little message. And for this message, I'm going to type initial commit extra m. Okay, so what we're doing here is we're committing all of our code into Git. So in the first step, we added it. Now we're like committing it. We're saying, in the first one, we're like, take all these files. And in the second one, we're like, and save them, right? And you want to put this little initial commit. This is a message. And anytime you make changes to your code, you're going to say what that change was in that message. So if you like added a new file, you might type added such and such file, right? If you were working on something and you had a big for loop and you took it out, you might say removed for loop. It's just a little message to sort of remind yourself of why you're saving this to begin with. And this is important because we'll see in a minute when we look at GitHub, it keeps track of all of these messages. And it's a good way to visually sort of just look at it and go, oh yeah, I did that there. So later on, if you need to go back, you can reference these little messages and help you figure out where you should go and stuff like that. So important to do that. So hit enter and we can see initial commit. One file has changed. It's inserted hello.py, which is the only file we have right now, and we're ready to go. So the last step, anytime you do this stuff, it's a 3-step process. You add it, you commit it, and then you push it. And to do that, we type git push, but we don't do it yet because we have not set up GitHub. We're going to be pushing our code up to GitHub, and we have to set up GitHub in order to do that. So let's go back over to our GitHub account. And we've already added our SSH keys. Now what we need to do is create a repository. And I mentioned earlier on GitHub, they house repositories. They host repositories. And anytime you have a bunch of code, that's a repository. So if you're creating a project, maybe you're building a blog, that blog is a repository. You'll have all the code for that blog in that repository. So it's just a way to keep track of things. So what we need to do is click on repositories right here. You can see I have 34 of them. That's kind of cool. And here we'll click on new. And for this repository name, I'm going to call this one Python 2019, right? And you can see it's putting a dash in there, so automatically, because you can't have space. So you could do it like that. Now, the reason I'm calling this Python 2019 because this course is called Learn Python in 2019. If you're going to create a blog, you might title this My Blog, right? If you're going to create a website, you might put www.whatever.com as the name of the repository. Whatever you're doing, that's how you do that. Now here, you have to pick whether it's public or private. And if it's public, everybody can see it, right? You used to have to pay to make it private. But since Microsoft bought GitHub, they've changed it to where you can now keep these things private at no cost. So that's very cool. In fact, I haven't even done that yet. For this purposes, I'm going to keep this public because I want you to be able to look at the code, as we're going on through this course. If you want to reference the code, you can come here and look at the code because it'll be public. So let's go ahead and create repository. Now, one last step, we have to come down here and we have to now connect our Git terminal to our GitHub account. And to do it, we enter these 2 commands, and we'll only do it once. So I'm going to highlight this and right click and copy. And let's head back to our terminal and let's paste this in and hit enter. And then finally, this very last one, Git Push U origin master. Now, normally when we push our code, we type in Git Push. But the first time you do it, you type Git Push U origin master. So I'm going to right click and copy. And let's paste this in. And now it should push our code up to Heroku. Now, it's saying the first time you do it, it's saying the authenticity of GitHub, we don't know about. Are you sure? Just type yes. And it's going to ask you for that password you put in when you first created your SSH key. Remember I said you probably don't have to put a password, but you can. If you didn't put a password, just hit enter and bypass this. But I did put a password, so I'm going to type in that password. And you notice it didn't show up on the screen. That's a security feature. Hit enter. Okay, so it's enumerating 3 objects, counting, blah, blah, blah. It's pushing it. Okay, and it looks like it's done. So we could confirm that by going back to GitHub, clicking on our profile, clicking on our repositories, and do we see the Python 2019? Yes, we do. There it is. And it has our hello.py file in it. And wait, let's go back, and you can see right here, it says initial commit. That's that commit message we typed in. So that's cool. So if we click on this, we can see, sure enough, here is our file. Very, very cool. So, which is this file that we worked on in the last video. So let's come up here to the top And right up here, I'm going to type in Python. Now let's type in learn Python coding in 2019 by John Elder. And let's type in Codemy.com. And let's do that. Give us a space. Now let's go crazy. I told you I usually don't do things like these huge comments, but just to make a point. Okay, so we've added some new stuff. Now I'm going to go ahead and save this file, Control S to save it. So we've made some changes to our code, right? We added some comments. Now what do? Let's say, hey, this is an important change. We need to save this to GitHub, right? You wouldn't normally, but just to show you how to do this, to make sure we understand this, let's go ahead and do it. So come back here, let's clear the screen. Now remember, I said anytime you want to save your code, it's a 3-step process. First, we type in git add period. We're saying add everything in this directory to Git. Now we want to git commit -am, and you can use single quotes or double quotes for your commit message. So let's say we added copyright. No, we added author information, right? Whatever. Hit enter. Now we want to push this. The third step is to push this to GitHub. And to do that, we just type in git push. And we can see, it's adding the thing. It asks us for our SSH key password. And it'll do this every time unless you didn't add a password, and then you can just hit enter. So, okay, so it looks like we're done. Let's go ahead and confirm that by coming back over here and hitting reload. And we can say, boom, now added author information. The commit message has been updated, right? And you can come back through here and look at the different branches and the different commits. If we click on here, we can see here's the first one, initial commit. Here's the second one, added author information. You can see that's why these little commit messages are easy, or are convenient, are nice. Because, you know, in the future, you may have hundreds of files listed here, and you'll be able to just at a glance look at these and know, you know, what bit of code that is based on your commit message. So we can go ahead and make sure this got pushed correctly. It looks like it already did because we have this new commit message on there. But we can click on here and see, boom, that bit of code that we just added on here at the top has been pushed up here. Very cool, very neat, and just that easy. So that's Git, that's version control. Just sort of remember every time you want to make a big change to your code, like you've done something significant, save it and push it up to GitHub. This is good for a lot of reasons. Even if you're not working on a team, you know, if you're trying to get a job, your employer is going to want to see these things. If you're not trying to get a job, it's still good to do this because I've had computers explode. I mean, just burn. I've had computers just die on me. I've had motherboards fry, and I've lost all of my stuff, right? If you save your code and push it up to GitHub, you're always going to have your code. It's always going to be safe. It's always a good idea. Your house could burn down, you know, your computer could get stolen. Who knows? You could leave it at the airport or something. It's always a good idea to back up your code, and this is an easy and free way to do it. It's the industry standard way to do it, and pretty cool. So this wasn't really a Python lesson, but as a Python coder, you're always going to use Git. You're always going to use GitHub. And it's just super important. So that's all for this video. If you liked it, be sure to smash the like button below, subscribe to the channel, and check out Codemy.com where you can use coupon code YouTube to get $22 off membership. So you pay just $27 to access all my courses, hundreds of videos, and the PDF versions of all my best-selling coding books. Join over 50,000 students learning to code just like you. My name is John Elder from Codemy.com. We'll see you in the next video.